Now we will look at the phonological knowledge. The simplest definition of phonological knowledge is that it is the knowledge of the phonological structure or pronunciation of a word. Now this knowledge includes phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, phonological memory, and phonological access. By phonological awareness, we mean the sensitivity to the sound structure of a word. By phonemic awareness, we become aware of how to manipulate sound in a word. Phonological memory is the ability to hold phonological units in a memory. Phonological access is the ability to retrieve the familiar pronunciation of a word, or you can say pronunciation of familiar words. In order to understand phonological knowledge and its processes, we have to look at a number of examples. One part of our word knowledge is the phonological structure or pronunciation of words. Now, for example, we know when two words are homophones, which means the words that are spelled differently but sound alike, such as bear and bear. Now, these are homophones. Their spellings are different, B-A-R-E and B-E-A-R, but they are pronounced alike, or they sound alike. Similarly, we experience the tip of the tongue, T-O-T phenomenon, when we are not quite successful at retrieving a particular word but can remember something about how it sounds. So, tip of the tongue, T-O-T phenomena, what is it? Now, tip of the tongue phenomena, when we are not quite successful at retrieving a particular word but can remember something about how it sounds. Now, this phenomenon has been described by William James in 1819/1950, all these different studies. According to them, suppose we try to recall a forgotten name. Now, the state of our consciousness is peculiar. There is a gap therein, but not only gap, it is a gap that is intensely active. So gap is there, but the gap is it's not a dead gap. It is quite active. If wrong names are proposed to us, this singularly definite gap acts immediately so as to negate them. So the gap is very active. The process is of remembering, the process is of recalling, and the gap actually enables to identify or to come up with the right name. If wrong names are proposed, the gap acts immediately so as to negate them. They do not fit into its mold, and the gap of one word does not feel like the gap of another. So basically that gap helps in determining or enabling a person coming up with the right word or not. The TOT phenomenon was systematically studied for the first time by Brown and McNeil, who presented definition of infrequent words such as sextant, which is basically an instrument used for measuring the angular distance, and asked subjects to produce the defined word. Now, when they were asked to define word, subjects were in the TOT state, tip of the tongue state. They retrieved but rejected similar sounding words such as secant. So they say that they retrieved but rejected similar words such as this that I have just mentioned, secant. Thus, We sometimes activate words by their sounds. So that is something that has been proposed by this study, that words are activated by us based on their sounds. And when we make speech errors, we sometimes substitute a similar sounding word for the intended word. Hence, phonological development can be observed by knowing how to use conversion rules from letters to phoneme. The phonological awareness is also reflected in the ability to rhyme, identify repetitive sound patterns, break down words to syllables, and combine syllables into sound and words.